Hi everyone, and welcome in and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, I'm Christina and I'm a licensed realtor in the greater Sacramento, California area. I love helping people buy and sell homes, and I wanted to make a step-by-step guide for you to show you exactly what you need to do to prepare in order to buy your first home or maybe your second home. And instead of making this an old, dusty, and crusty kind of video, we have my trusty sidekick, Bo, here, who's enjoying his chicken and vegetable bone. He's here to remind us that this process does not need to be as stressful as a lot of people make it out to be. Wow, you're really chewing that kind of loud. Quiet. We're on YouTube, Bo. Quiet. So first, let's start with the financial side of things. This is probably the most important step because lenders, and unless you're buying a home all cash, you'll probably need a mortgage. And lenders need to know that you can afford the monthly mortgage payment and any other unexpected costs that might come into play with owning a home. This guy leads to a lot of unexpected costs, let me tell you. So the first thing you want to consider is how much money you have saved for a down payment. There are different down payment options, okay? And they're available depending on who you are and if you qualify. So an FHA loan requires a minimum of 3.5% down. While conventional loans typically are in the 10 to 20% down, there are some special programs like the VA loans and the USDA loans that sometimes allow for 0% down, but you have to be a veteran, active military, or potentially looking to buy in a rural neighborhood. Whoa, got your bone. I got your bone. Bo, don't put your bottom to the camera. That's not like a gentleman. Of course, the lower the down payment, I will say there's going to be more risk to you, and potentially you'll be under a little bit more pressure. So that's something to keep in mind. 20% down with 80% financing is kind of a great starting point and why a lot of conventional loans are structured that way. Not to mention, by doing that, you waive private mortgage insurance. That's something that's completely up to you based on your risk tolerance and preferences and your financial situation. So I don't want to make a blanket statement for anyone. Oh. Up. In addition to the down payment, you will need to factor in some other costs, especially closing costs that can go from 2 to 5% of the purchase price of your home on average. It can fluctuate a little bit, but the closing costs cover things like loan origination fees, title insurance, appraisals, all that good stuff that you absolutely need when you want to purchase your home. So that's something to keep in mind. On top of your down payment and closing costs, it's a good idea to have an emergency fund for things that might go wrong after the home purchase, like repairs, appliance maintenance, that type of thing. Before we go any further, I do need to say, even if you don't have a huge amount saved up right now, don't get discouraged. Remember, every little bit counts, and you will see that things can start to really build up in your favor as you steward your finances really well and prepare yourself in accordance with the steps I'm going to show you coming up. Uh-oh, did you lose your bone? There is it. Face the camera, Bo. Another important factor that lenders consider is your debt to income ratio, or what we call DTI. This ratio compares your total monthly debt payments with your gross monthly income. So this is your income before you deduct any taxes or anything else along those lines. Ideally, you want that ratio, that DTI, to be about 28%, but some lenders might allow it to be a little bit higher, even as high as 36%. And I do know that some FHA loans will even allow higher than that. Once again, the higher you go, the more risk and pressure you might feel. So remember, that's something to keep in mind. You don't always want to max out everything in your budget, but you do want to make really smart, educated decisions when it comes to how much debt you are taking on with your home. Now, people always ask me, how do I make my debt to income ratio better? Let's talk about this, because essentially the best way you can do is pay down debt. But how do you do that in the right way? While I'm not a licensed financial advisor or anything like that, here are some good standard everyday Joe kind of tips you can get on the internet and things that I've seen work well in my life and the lives of people around me. So first, like I said, focus on paying down your high interest debt first. No brainer. Then make more than the minimum payment on your debt whenever possible. It will start chipping away at it so much faster. I know that isn't always feasible, but when it is, go for it. It is worth it. And in some cases, you might want to consider consolidating your debt into a single loan with a lower interest rate. That can definitely help along the way. So there are practical ways to help lower your debt if you're willing to put in a little bit of that logistical work and a little bit of self-discipline. I know it can seem hard, but I know that you can do it. I believe in you. and Bo believes in you too. Almost as much as he believes in chewing this bone. Whoa. You're a good boy. You're a good dog. So lenders will also want to verify your income, right, and employment history. Typically, they're looking for 2 years of consistent employment. However, there's some exceptions. So let's say you've changed jobs in the last 2 years. Maybe you got a new job with a higher pay. Maybe you went laterally to a different company. Those things are and should absolutely be okay. They're just looking to make sure that your pay is consistent before and after the transition. Steady or increasing income is obviously a plus, while fluctuating income can be a little bit more of an obstacle. So if you're going from a salaried role to a commission-based role that has more fluctuations, that might raise a flag for a lender. But if the rest of your loan application is really strong, typically that's something they can also work past. Now, if you're self-employed, you might need to provide some extra business documentation, from tax returns to profit loss statements, basically to prove your income. So that's really standard practice. So don't worry, if you're self-employed, you can still absolutely buy property. Don't believe anyone who says otherwise. Right, Bo? He's still pretty invested in that bone. And if you're retired, you can use Social Security, income, pension, and other retirement accounts to essentially qualify for that mortgage. So you don't have to be locked into a 9-to-5 salaried job in order to qualify for a mortgage, although that can make it easy. There's a lot of different avenues available to you. Once you have your finances in order, you'll be ready to start shopping for a mortgage, which is such an exciting part of the process. Whoa there, buddy. Are you ready to shop for your mortgage? Now, you should know there's different types of mortgages that are available, and they each have their own requirements, but also their own benefits. So let's talk about that. FHA loans are insured by the Federal Housing Administration, and they're a very good point for first-time homebuyers with, someone looking for a lower down payment. VA loans are guaranteed by the Department of Veteran Affairs, and they're available to veterans and active militaries with absolutely no down payment required. So if that's you, I would highly recommend exercising that loan option. Would you like some more space? Okay, doggy bed down. So USDA loans are backed by the Department of Agriculture, and they're there to help finance homes in more rural areas, which I'm sure my little puppy would love to live in a more rural area. So don't overlook that. It can be a great life choice. And lastly, and most commonly used, are conventional loans. They're not backed by any government program, and they typically require a higher down payment for that reason, because the lender is taking on a little bit more risk. And they also will require a slightly higher credit score for that same reason. They're just chomping away. Bo, can you sit? Now that you've shopped around and looked at your mortgage options, it is the time to get pre-approved. Getting pre-approved for a mortgage is a great way to get a head start on your home buying journey. The pre-approval process involves submitting your financial information to a lender, such as pay stubs and financial statements like bank statements. The lender will review your information and basically determine how much of a loan they will give to you. And it'll give you a really good idea of your borrowing power and the price range of homes you can afford. So basically, your lender will work with you to estimate your monthly mortgage payments, which is hugely important. And they'll be a super useful resource throughout the whole home buying process, from helping you with a specific pre-approval letter when you make an offer, to helping crunch numbers when you're in escrow, to finally closing on your home. All right, so let's say you have you're looking at making an offer and you really want to review the costs. You should know what are going to go into your monthly mortgage payments outside of just the down payment you're putting down on your home. Your mortgage payments basically break down into 4 main items. So the first is your principal. This is the money you're paying towards the value of your house. So in other words, the more principal you pay off, the more equity you build in your home. That's the sweet spot. The next is interest. Of course, lenders don't give out money for free, and that is where interest rates get involved. So you pay a certain amount of interest every month on top of your principal in order to pay your lender. Now, these numbers really fluctuate. Early on, a lot more money will be going towards interest in every payment, but as you pay that off and as you pay more in the principal, eventually it flips, and then more money will go towards your principal over time. The next category is property taxes, everyone's favorite topic, right, Bo? Definitely not his favorite topic. But those are calculated based on the assessed value of your home. So your mortgage lender can definitely help you estimate your property tax costs before your purchase. Typically, you'll pay a portion of your property taxes with every payment. However, in some instances, you can elect to pay your property taxes separately. You might save on a couple fees that way if that's something you can do, but be careful and be mindful to reserve that money, because if you don't have it by the time your property bills are due in the 2 installments each year, the fees and the late fees are no joke. So sometimes it's just better to pay them with your mortgage payment on that monthly basis. Lastly is insurance. You'll need to pick a home insurance plan and provider that works for you. This can vary widely in cost and coverage, but no, this will definitely be at least a part of your home expenses. So fire, flood, and earthquake insurance are all examples of coverage you might want to consider, and getting something that's specific to the geography of your area, it makes a huge difference. Speaking of insurance, one great thing to do up front is to have your home inspected before you close on it. And that'll give you so much insight into the condition and the potential problems you'll have with any given property, especially the home that you're getting legally tied to and putting a bunch of your savings into. So everything from looking at the structural integrity of your home to any potential pests. And when I say potential pests, I don't mean this guy, even though sometimes he could feel that way. No, you're not a pest. We love you. So let's talk about our last few costs. So maintenance. Your home will require some upkeep over time. Most people estimate that a good rule of thumb is that each year you'll have to spend about 1% to 4% of the value of your home in maintenance. I don't know if that's always true for everyone, but it definitely can be the case. Of course, if you're like me and my husband, the more you learn to do on your own, the more you'll save in costs and just feel like a really cool, handy person. Next is homeowner association fees. So if you're part of a community with an HOA, you'll be responsible for paying those fees either monthly or quarterly. And those basically cover the costs of maintaining common areas, pools, parks, clubhouses. Sometimes they'll even do your front landscaping, which is huge. And if you're in California, Melrose is something that you need to be aware of for new developments. So in districts with Melrose, basically with new development, the government basically sells bonds in order to finance big infrastructure projects to build out that community. So the Melrose taxes essentially pay off that debt over time, and then they go away when the bonds are paid. So you're kind of paying a little bit extra to set up a new community and the amenities and facilities and the infrastructure that it needs, so it does net out in benefit. Okay, good boy. Yeah, can you lie down? Good boy. The good news is that owning a home can help you financially. It is not just all costs, there can be benefits to it, and I would argue that there is actually a lot outside of just the equity that you build in your real estate that is hopefully and most likely appreciating over time. Working with a tax advisor can show you how you may be able to benefit from actually deducting mortgage interest and property taxes on principal and secondary residences, which is huge. There's also even more tax deductions available for rental properties because they operate a bit more like a business. That includes deducting things like insurance, utilities, repairs, maintenance, depreciation, and things of that nature. And if you're like me and you spend a lot of your time working from home, you can deduct your home office space from your taxes if you qualify. So once again, with all this stuff, when you're in that scenario, it's important to work with a tax professional so they can make sure everything is to code and the way it is. And more often than not, they'll find more areas and things that you can either itemize or deduct from your taxes. So would highly recommend that. And on a second note, let me know if you would like to have me bring on a CPA on this channel to talk through some of that, because I have some great connections and we could talk through that in a future video. So buying a home can be a big decision, and it might make you feel a little overwhelmed and wiped out, like someone, not to mention. But I'm here to say that with the right planning and with the right preparation, it can be actually a really rewarding experience, and it always has been that way for me. So, shameless plug, if you're in the Sacramento region or if you're in California, I'd love to talk further about working with you, because I really believe in opening doors for people and putting my clients first and doing everything in my power to get them the best deals and the best properties, and honestly, the places that fit their needs the best. If you have any questions about the home buying process, please put them in the comments below. If you've had a different experience buying a home, I would also love to hear that as well. As always, if you could like this video and subscribe to my channel, it helps me keep making great video content for you guys just like this. Bo always thinks that he's the star of the show, and let's be honest, he kind of is. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will see you in the next one. Bye now. So your lender will work with you to estimate your monthly mortgage payments. Tummy rubs, tummy rubs, tummy rubs. Well, when are you gonna buy your first property?